We are the certain and the seeking, the lifers and the newcomers, the beloved and the brokenhearted, the insiders and the rejected, all of whom have found a home in the extraordinary yet intimate community of Unitarian Universalism. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Amherst. I am Angela Warren, the Director of Faith Development for this congregation. My pronouns, which I offer to be fully inclusive, are she and her. We're so glad you have chosen to be here, virtually and in person. For the next 4 months, our minister, Reverend Michelle Buhite, will be on sabbatical. A team of weavers, ushers, coffee makers, service support makers, musicians, including our dear friend Adam Schmidt, our tech staff, many folks have been assembled to help us carry on in her absence, in joy and hopeful building of community. For those in the chapel, I invite you to put your phones on reverence mode, silencing them so that you and all may be fully present and free from distraction, and do whatever you can at home to do the same. As we gather, oops, I'm forgetting the slides. As we gather, we acknowledge that our church is built on occupied land that once belonged to the First Nation people of this region, the Haudenosaunee, and the people known as the Neutrals before them. May we be good stewards of the land and courageously cultivate community with all living things. It's been said that Unitarian Universalism is the religion that puts its faith in you, trusting each individual to engage in your own spiritual journey and to reach your conclusions or not about spiritual matters. We do that in beloved community as we support one another in faith and in friendship. In that spirit, this congregation has created a covenant, a sacred promise of how we will strive to be with one another. Please join me in speaking our covenant. Together we promise to gather in compassionate community, to celebrate diversity of thought and unity of spirit, and to seek wholeness for ourselves, our children, and our world. We begin each gathering by lighting the chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. Our flaming chalice represents the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of our commitment to foster more compassion and justice in a hurting world. Our chalice lighting today are traditional Wiccan words to create the circle. The circle is cast. We are between the world, beyond the bounds of space and time, where birth and death, night and day, joy and sorrow meet as one. Blessed be. Each of us carries with us into this worship time cares and concerns, joys and sorrows. Together, we create the container where we can put down our burdens, knowing they are held gently by this gathered community. For those joining virtually, I invite you to give voice to that which is on your heart, or perhaps type it into the chat in the live stream. For those here in the chapel, I invite you to come forward and place a stone or shell on the table labyrinth in recognition of that which is in your heart. Please join me in a communal response. In this gathered community, we hold one another in love. Together, we light a candle of sorrow and concern for the people of Ukraine and Russia, and indeed all of the people and the more than human family of life on earth. We include in the circle of compassion and care all those who are impacted by acts of aggression and terror, We pray for peace and compassion in our war-torn world. In this gathered community, we hold the world in love. Now, let's sing together. Rise in body or spirit as we sing together number 1064 in the Teal hymnal, or the words.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port I have known. What universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port I have known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Reverend Amy Beltaine provides a UU ministry of spiritual mentoring through individual and group appointments, Sunday services, rites, and rituals, helping friends and family of the oppressed to break open instead of being broken by the pain in the world. when Amy and her spouse Hawthorne are not pulling their little home behind them, they're at home in Portugal or in Portland, Oregon. A graduate of Meadville Lombard School for the Ministry, Amy is on the coordinating committee of the UU Spiritual Directors Network and chair of the Spiritual Direction Program at Cherry Hill Seminary. Amy is a nearly lifelong, earth-honoring, process panentheist, and aspires to become a love ninja.
As a child, the community of spirit and meaning, the community that worked for a better world, especially worked to care for and be in relationship with nature, that community for me was Campfire. So I would like to invite us with a gift from my childhood into reverence and connection. This is the Campfire Law, my very first covenant. Seek beauty, give service, and knowledge pursue. Be trustworthy ever in all that you do. Hold fast unto health and your work glorify. And you will be happy in the law of Campfire. Come into the circle of love and justice. Come, let us worship together. In this story, there's a wise woman who is called a Velva. No, not the word you learned in owl our whole lives, and not a car. A Velva is a Norse shaman, often dedicated to the goddess Freya. Freya's sacred animals are cat and sow. A sow is a mother pig. Today's story starts with Sven and Olaf fighting. They have been fighting for years. They tried fences, and fences didn't work because as soon as one was built, it was torn down to put another one a few meters north. And then the same thing happened, and that one was torn down, and it was moved a few meters south, and a new one was built. Let's zoom the camera in on Sven and Olaf. Yep, there they are. They're at it again, yelling instead of going home to eat Friday dinner. Zoom past the deer, past the hedgerow with the hedgehogs under it, past the broken fences. Can you hear them? Sven, you used poisons on my land, petroleum fertilizers. Olaf, you don't care that I have mouths to feed. How do you expect me to earn a living? Sven, pesticides kill the ladybugs and praying mantises I worked hard to get. Olaf, who has time to wrap every single broccoli stalk with copper to stop the slugs? Well, if you wouldn't use the loud machines that scare away all the slug-eating birds. The neighbors started to gather around, and the fight escalated until fists came out. But then everybody stopped cheering them on, and the crowd parted, and in comes an old woman leaning on a very big sow. That is the Velva, and she is here to tell Sven and Olaf what to do. She says, I'll be back in a week, and you tell me the owners of the land that were before you, and I will decide who is in charge of this land. Well, she walked off with the sow, and Sven and Olaf, it was the vulva. They were going to do what she said. So Sven researched. He's going to win. Olaf worked on his farm. He's not going to win. Sven interviewed people. He's going to win. Olaf went home to dinner and sat quietly looking out at the land. He's not going to win. And eventually, Friday came. The vulva came back. The crowd gathered. And she came with her sow, the pig, and the pig had her piglets with her. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lots of piglets. Okay, Sven, you go. He's gonna win. Sven named his father and his father's father. He named the man he bought the land from and his father and his father's father. He went back 8 generations. He named the owners of the land. He's gonna win. Okay, Olaf, you go. He's not gonna win. Olaf named the trees: hazelnut, pine, hawthorn, and the bushes: elderberry, gooseberry, quince, and the plants: dandelion grass, comfrey. Named the animals: deer, hedgehog, bunny, mouse. Named the insects: worms and beetles and ladybugs. Named the rocks: shale, granite, limestone. Named the earth: sand, silt, and clay. So who won?
So I have an announcement
Thus
from our
ends
Vice Chair of our Board of Trustees and Chair of the COVID Task Force, Don Tucker. Thanks, Don.
Hi. We've been working hard in the last 2 years to understand how we can keep church running and through COVID. And we've been trying to follow the science as best we could. Right now, COVID rates in Western New York are at a high level, and CDC recommends that masks be worn indoors when rates are high. So we are not mandating masks, we're recommending masks be worn inside. We're going to continue with coffee hour because we assume most people here are vaccinated and they're going to be around with friends that they socialize outside. But that's where we're at, and hopefully when COVID rates go down, we can change our recommendation. But it is just a recommendation. Thank you.
Ever-shifting water of the river of this life, I was swimming, seeking comfort. I was wrestling waves to find a boulder I could cling to, a stone to hold me fast, where I let the fretful water of this river around me pass. So I found an anchor, a blessed resting place, a trusty rock I called my Savior, for there I would be safe. From this river and its dangers, I proclaimed my rock divine, and I prayed to it, protect me, and the rock replied, God is a river, not just a stone. God is a wild, raging rapids and a slow, meandering flow. God is a deep and narrow passage, a peaceful, sandy shore. God is the river swimmer. So let go. my rock tightly with conviction in my arms, never looking at the stream to keep my mind from thoughts of harm. But the river kept on coming, kept on tugging at my legs, till at last my fingers fluttered and I was swept away. So I'm going with the flow now, these relentless twists and bends, acclimating to the motion and a sense of being led. And this river's like my body now, it carries me along through the ever-changing scenes and by the rocks that sing this song. God is a river, not just a stone. God is a wild, raging rapids and a slow, meandering flow. God is a deep and narrow passage, a peaceful, sandy shore. God is the river swimmer. So let go. God is the river swimmer. So let go. Let go.
Julie Andrews sang in Camelot, it's May, the lusty month of May, that lovely month when everyone goes blissfully astray. And everyone makes divine mistakes. The exuberance of April and May, flowers are bursting forth, green shoots are emerging sunward, the spring lambs are frolicking. All of that life becoming, reaching, birthing is a response to the nourishment of the sun as the earth turns toward the heat and light of our star. May Day is upon us. May Day in the US makes us think of spring and of flowers, but May Day has a different meaning when you mention it almost anywhere else in the world. May 1st is celebrated as Workers' Day. On International Workers' Day, we remember those who fought and risked in order to earn protections for workers, protections that we take for granted now, like weekends and child labor laws. International Workers' Day, or Labor Day, was initially called for at the International Socialist Congress in Amsterdam in 1904. They called for demonstrations to push for the legal establishment of the 8-hour day, for the class demands of the proletariat, and for universal peace. And they instructed all workers to take a holiday on the 1st of May. A day of celebrating spring, emerging growth, fertility, love, and joy, and a time to recommit to our community and our solidarity to act for a world of love and justice. A worker day and a flower day. Though they are different, we can celebrate them together. A celebration of the renewal of spring and a celebration of the work we all do and the people who labor. As we celebrate renewal of the self, we can enter into the work with new energy. The earth labors as well. The land creates food and shelter and beauty to sustain all that lives. We can appreciate the bounty of our planet while we are appreciating the work that the people do. We too create food and shelter and beauty as we care for the earth and all beings on it. How can we glorify our work? Whistle while we work, let our lives be songs, and do the work that must be done sustainably caring for ourselves and each other with joy. The exuberance of spring makes us wonder what gives us renewal. The answers will be different depending on where you live, what your family stories are, and how you relate to the celestial progression of the seasons. Spring is celebrated differently all over the world by many peoples. There's Shinto, Native American, and Aboriginal earth relating or deities relating traditions. We could talk about Cinco de Mayo, Purim, Nowruz, or Buddha Day, which are super interesting, but those aren't mine to share. My ancestors are Gaelic, English, Gaulish, and Slovak. On the other hand, the earth is mine as it is everyone's. I've learned from Earth's seasons and animal life stages which transcend the cultures of humankind. Celtic May Day is called in Scottish Gaelic La Baltina or Beltaine. You may have heard that word before. Baltina is celebrated at the beginning of the month of May. Beltaine was time for blessing livestock. Great bonfires were lit, and the cattle were driven between them from the winter pasture to the freedom of the summer pastures. Then people partied. Here, where I live in Portugal, Easter time is celebrated with flowers. 2 weeks ago, the streets of my town were carpeted in flowers, and people paraded holding hundreds of huge flower torches. In many cultures, May Day is celebrated by gifts of flowers. I grew up in Oregon, and I listened to my mom's stories of snowy upstate New York, but I couldn't relate. It was green all winter long in Oregon. For me, spring was mud. Spring was when the ratio of sunny days to wet days started to shift, and I would blink like an animal coming out of a cave at that weird, bright thing in the sky. When I moved to upstate New York, there was sun in winter, but it was cold, snowy, gray, and icy until May. The Lenten rose pushing through the snow in April was a miracle flower. Though its colors couldn't compete with the showy flowers in March in Oregon, I was starved for flowers and delighted to see it. So what is your sign of spring transformation? What does the land say to you? Is it the first day it's warm enough to leave your jacket at home? Is it the sight of the first robin? The crack of a baseball bat connecting with a ball? Meteor showers? Tulips in bloom? The divine is in everything and all of these things. The divine is within us, a part of everything in the universe, an immanent and intimate concept of divinity. Indigenous, earth-relating, and deities-relating spirituality understands the sacred differently from the theology I learned in Bible school as a kid. Divinity is direct, personal, and experienced on a physical plane. Therapists have discovered in the past few decades that all that talk therapy isn't enough. We need to listen to feel into our bodies as well. They talk about the somatic or the embodied experience. The word feel means both body sensation and emotion. We are physical creatures. However, many of us grew up in disembodied communities where our inner knowing starved. Such joy and richness is available to us if we cultivate an awareness of our own physical selves. What a freeing idea. My body is good. Your body is good. Our bodies are meant to be enjoyed. Our bodies are divine. In the days before Christianity in Western Europe, May Day was all about the joys of young love, human sensuality, and sexuality. It's written that in Great Britain and France, on the first day of May, young men and women would go out into the fields to celebrate with acts of love and pleasure to bless the crops, and the land would bless them with fertility too. This tradition has continued in some areas as a day of rule breaking, a time to obey the Lord of misrule. Those dreary vows that everyone makes, everyone breaks, everyone makes divine mistakes. Or as the band Jethro Tull sings, May I make my fond excuses for the lateness of the hour. But we accept your invitation and we bring you Beltaine's flower, for the May Day is the great day, sung along the old straight track, and those who ancient lines did label heed the song that calls them back. Pass the word and pass the lady, pass the plate to all who hunger.
The words of
You've got to do when the Spirit says do. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you've got to do, oh Lord. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. 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 You've got to do when the Spirit says sing. You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you've got to sing, oh Lord. You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. 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 Got to move when the Spirit says move. You got to move when the Spirit says move. When the Spirit says move, you got to move, oh Lord. You got to move when the Spirit says move. Spirit says move. Spirit says move. Spirit says shout when the Spirit says shout. You got to shout when the Spirit says shout. When the Spirit says shout, you got to shout. Oh Lord, you got to shout when the Spirit says shout. 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 You've got to do when the Spirit says. Thank you for joining our gathering today or virtually. You can support the work and mission of this congregation with your financial contributions. For those in our chapel today, you'll find baskets at the back to receive your gift. And there's Mickey. Hi, Mickey. For those participating virtually, I invite you to take a moment to visit our website, uuamherst.org, and click on the giving link, or you can text your gift to 833-987-1968. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
sing together. Travel light and travel easy till I see you once again. Travel light and travel easy, and remember I'm your friend. May the road rise up to greet you as you leave your past behind. I will think about you gently, and I'll hold you in my mind. Travel light and travel easy till I see you once again. Travel light and travel easy, and remember I'm your friend.
The second covenant I ever learned was also in Campfire Group. I learned the Bluebird Wish in second grade. The Bluebird Wish is like the kids' version of the 7 principles. This pledge or prayer asks us to promise. I promise to have fun, to learn to make beautiful things, to remember to finish what I begin, to learn to keep my temper in most of the time, to learn about nature and living outdoors, to have adventures with all sorts of things, and to make friends. Let us go forth together. Let us make beautiful things, celebrate together, and create a world of love and justice. Amin. Sukha. Om Shanti. Ashe. Amen. And blessed be.